Regular session.
Good morning, everyone. Jake, if we could call this meeting to order, please. Roll call.
Keisha Johnner,
Here.
Mark Ramey,
Here.
Steve McCombs.
Here.
I'll entertain a motion for today's agenda.
Motion to approve today's agenda.
Second,
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye. Item number 3 is communications. Jake, do we have any communications?
Not for me.
Nope.
No, none.
I don't have any either. On to public comments. This is the portion of the agenda of items that are not currently on our agenda that could possibly become future topics. Is there any public comments?
I don't quite know how. This is about the Atkins, and that's further down the line. That was like item number 10. It's about runoff, and I'm here to represent Hempstead Street, which is going to receive part of the water coming off the Atkins property. And we're not set up for a whole lot of water down there. The culverts are in terrible decay. I approached the city administrator, Joe, of Pleasantville, and I approached the Marion County road supervisor or whatever. And he didn't even have a knowledge that they were going to hard surface or pave that road. And I'm wondering about stormwater, is what I'm concerned about, because it runs across my neighbor's property here, across our property.
Can you state your name? And
Oh,
sorry,
sorry.
that's okay. Your name and
It's
No,
all
you're
right.
fine. Just
It's all
go
right.
ahead and
Larry Lockwood.
yeah, Larry, could you speak into the mic so the
Oh.
people online can hear? So, yep, you're on.
Really have to talk into it.
Yeah, Larry, and also could you state your address so we have that?
318 Hempstead Street. On the edge of Pleasantville, the city. We're outside of city limits, and my concern is the stormwater runoff from the Atkins project. Most of the water runs off of that land in a normal direction to the north, which would intersect with Hayes. And I see on their plan that they have a retention pond that they want to build to keep the flow at a gradual rate
Okay.
rather than accelerated. We're on Hempstead and we only have ditches. And eventually the ditches dump into my neighbor's property and then into our property. And when I put in my driveway, I put in a 24-inch culvert, which Gary Kingery, who was a soil conservation guy 10, 12, 14 years ago, he said that would be plenty to handle the runoff because it's ag land and there's 50 acres draining your way and the 24-inch will cover it. I've seen that 24-inch culvert run full with a 5-inch rain in Pleasantville. And I'm concerned with the paving and the parking lots and the additional buildings. You're going to increase the flow rate as well as the volume on us. And then if you continue down through our property to my next neighbor's property, I'm not sure who owns that. There's a dam on my property at the bottom end of that. And then he has a pond with another dam. So you could have a catastrophic blowout of a dam and a pond further down. I don't know who to talk to. Is it the county that I need to address? Is it the Atkins that I need to address? I don't know who to go to. To get my concerns ahead of time before it becomes too late.
Right. And that would be in the site plan. So,
Okay.
so
Is there
yes.
somebody I can talk to get a site plan of the survey, how they?
And I don't know that they're quite to that. I mean, have they fully got their site plan?
So that's a great question. I'm glad you raised this, but it would be between the city and the developer.
Okay,
So make sure to contact the city, talk to them about the layout of the development and the development agreement between them and the Atkins people developing it.
Okay.
Marion County is providing really financial support for the infrastructure.
oh, so it's not really you guys.
Yeah, we're
per
not,
se.
yeah, this is,
Okay.
we're providing that support, much like we've done with the VA and Prairie Ridge, to help put in streets and roads and
Okay.
piping.
Right,
But how it's laid out, how all the drainage is done, that's all the city and Atkins.
okay, but that's
So-
public knowledge, right?
Oh,
The
absolutely.
Survey of how. where the
Absolutely.
runoff's gonna
They
go
they
and the
can just,
flow
and
rates
as a matter
all
of
that.
fact,
Somebody's calculating, right? That,
well, that I don't know. That's, again,
they
that's
should,
between
yes.
them, but they
Right.
should be doing that.
okay,
But keep us apprised and we can certainly follow up and ask the same questions and say, have you taken that into consideration?
yeah.
And certainly do that on your behalf as well.
It actually runs across between 35th Street Avenue becomes Hempstead. It curves and there is no drainage. So the water runs across the road now, creating erosion in the road. So it's a county problem.
Right. So
For
we'll
us.
talk to Tyler and then I'll talk to Joe as well. And just let him know that you've raised these concerns and then he should reach out to you and help address those concerns.
All right, thank you.
You
Appreciate
bet.
that.
You bet. Thank you for your comment.
Thank you, Larry. Is there any public comments other than, do you have anything online, Renee? All right. Okay. On to consent agenda. Make a motion, entertain a motion for today's consent agenda.
So moved to approve.
second,
Ramey,
Aye.
sorry. Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
aye,
On to business. Item number 1 is discussion action for agreement with, is it Arca Search? Yeah, okay, yeah, so, good morning. Do we have a?
I'll probably kick
presentation?
this off
Okay.
if that's okay.
Yeah.
So this is a request from originating out of our office. What we have here is actually an agreement that we would like you guys to consider and approve. For ArcaSearch to do some digital preservation of a lot of our historical records. A lot of board of supervisor minute records, those types of things, also from transfer books and that type of thing. So today we have this agreement before you, but we also wanted to have David Frank. He is from ArcaSearch. He has been very politely pursuing us for a while and just showing us what opportunities he has. This has been a hot topic for a lot of counties to be doing historically, but also since ARPA started, and some counties have used ARPA money for projects like this as well. With our new website, we would like to be able to take a lot of the older records and make that digitized for preservation purposes and also to make it more public and searchable online. So that's kind of the goal of this. Before we let him go, just to show, he has kind of a short presentation, 2.5 hours is what I think he said yesterday. But
it'll be short.
Danny asked him to tone it down to 10 or less or something like that. So
2.5 hours on document
yeah,
retention.
yeah.
This had better be really good.
My kids always disagree. They don't think it's exciting,
Yeah.
but I tell my kids it's very exciting.
All right, all right.
It's his thing. So I would like, he's gonna just show us kind of how they get the data. And then how to search for the data, just to kind of show what that looks like and where ultimately we would hopefully end up to. And then just know that this data that we would, if this agreement is approved, the data is ours. So it is our property. Is that the correct word?
Correct, yep.
It is
Oh,
our
yeah, it
property. So if something would happen that we would not be with ArcaSearch down the road, it would still be our data to keep and use. The agreement is for this project to get everything digitized and then an ongoing yearly hosting type situation where people could access it to our website and then get to them from there. If I didn't say that very eloquently. So that's kind of the process that we have today.
I have one question
Yes,
for
sir.
you, Jay. If we agree to this, will this reduce our physical storage requirements?
The plan would not be to get rid of the paper. The plan is to preserve it, have it as a backup in case we would lose the old books, the original book number 1, book number 2 from the Board of Supervisors. So currently,
I realize there are records that we have to keep permanently, but
Right.
there are also records that we only have to keep for a period of time. Have we ever went through that process and tried to clean that up?
well, we started doing electronic transfer books and things like that many years ago. So we stopped keeping those books. The books that we're doing now, the process probably wouldn't change. When we do minutes now, I do still keep an original version, original blue signatures, you might say, on paper. We also keep those all electronically now. So I don't know that we would necessarily be doing any less paper. What this project is doing all historical stuff, not stuff moving
Well,
forward.
I guess the only reason I ask is eventually we're gonna run out of physical space
Oh.
sometime in, you know,
Could
What-
be,
what
but-
is-
but
what
it's
is-
not a
what-
very big number.
Well, what's the retention requirement, Jay?
Board of Supervisor minutes would be forever. So again, that kind of opens up a box. What is the retention record requirement mean? An electronic version or a paper version?
Right.
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 That's kind of what I was getting
Our
at.
practice right now is to have both. I really can't read well, some of it is a little bit harder to read because it's in cursive and those types of things.
I know there are statutes out there that give
Right.
you those retention
So like our
periods.
stuff with claims, you might say, we keep claims, we scan all electronic claims, the treasurer's office scans all the miscellaneous receipt stuff. So we have that electronically now and we can access it from our workstations and things like that. But we purge every 3 years after audit is when we
Okay.
purge stuff like that.
Okay.
The records that we're talking about today, I don't know that there would be any
But
intention.
but we
the-
are doing purges.
Yeah,
when we-
yeah,
well,
and the
all we
volume
can.
of this type of material would be a lot less. I mean, when you,
Right.
this would be something, Steve, when you're searching the old minute books and you were looking for a road, and
Mhm.
you would go to the basement, down to the room and
Mhm.
find book number 6 or 8 or whatever. The goal here would hopefully be at some point that you could do that from your workstation and not have to go to the basement. Those old books that you were in a lot
Yeah.
over those years.
Yeah.
My intention would not be for those to go away, the actual
Well,
book.
yeah,
But if they would get
I
flooded,
can
burnt,
I
those
can
types of
see
things.
those not going away.
So that's what we're talking about effectively. And then our transfer books in our office as well.
And
Okay,
I
so,
appreciate you letting me take them with me once in a while.
yeah, don't tell anybody that.
Well, and some of those original books end up going donated to the county historical societies and that kind of thing. Because they are truly the history of the county. There are more recent records that are even permanent records, but those don't always have to be saved. Those a lot of times get shredded, but the kind of records we're talking about, this particular project would probably be ones that the county would want to retain those books. And they're not voluminous. It's not like these aren't legal files that has a room full of boxes this size. That's a different issue. So.
So David Frank from ArcaSearch, thank you for listening.
Okay, I just had to ask.
Yeah, no, that's
No,
good.
And I want you to interrupt anytime you want. And this is really about answering the questions that the people have about this project, about what the benefits are for Marion County. My name is David Frank. I'm from ArcaSearch. Born and grew up in central Iowa, raised our family in Adel. Spent a lot of time right here. I've got good friends that live here in Knoxville. So from this area, when we became empty nesters, we moved up to Minnesota. So I live up north now. ArcaSearch is actually based in St. Cloud, Minnesota. I would call us a regional company. So we have 6 to 8 states that we cover. We do digital preservation. All right. So 80–90% of what we do is with government, with county government specifically, and that's what we're going to be talking about. But I will say we do this kind of work for corporate archives like John Deere Archives. We do some college universities. Grinnell College is one of our customers. The kind of material we do would be different. Obviously, we're doing newspapers and yearbooks for a college university. We've done a number of projects for the Iowa High School Athletic Association up in Boone. So if you go on their website and you want to search for the old, maybe you wrestled in 1972 and you want to see who you wrestled against. We captured all those books and they have it on their website. So you can go in and search your name and find content. So nonprofit organizations, some corporate archives, but also the county government is primarily what we're doing. And we used to just primarily do this with land records and vital records. But in the last couple of years, especially with ARPA driven, is you see a lot of counties that are saying, well, who's talked to the engineer? We have permanent records in the engineer's office. What about septic permits? Has anyone talked about septic permits and getting that accessible and online? So we're getting asked to do, assessors, property cards, and a variety of different kinds of things. But again, specifically, today we're going to talk about, 2 kinds of records that currently live in the auditor's office, which is the transfer books, which is documenting the transfer of lands for that office, and it points to a recorded document that they want. And then the supervisor minutes, which you're very familiar with those records. Since I'm from Iowa, when I went to work at ArcaSearch 6 years ago, I said, well, what about Iowa? And they said, well, they haven't been down to Iowa. So I'd like to go work with Iowa counties. And in the last 3 years, just last week, we had the 20th Iowa county that signed with ArcaSearch. So we have various projects and, many that are done, some that are waiting for us to come on site. There's really 2 components to this, and I'm going to talk about them kind of in reverse. So we do digital preservation. So that means coming on site with some special equipment. I'm going to show it to you in a minute, quick little video to show you how we take pictures to get these beautiful images of these books. We also then build, as Jake mentioned, the searchable archive. And when we're done, we hand you a link and you put it on your website, and then your customers, your public is able to just go in and do their own searches and find records. But again, many times it starts to grow, future years, they want to say, well, let's add election records to these, or let's add, some other kind of permanent record for the county. So it really becomes a county resource, a tool. We're not doing recording of land records. This is a historic document archive. And then sometimes we even take digital images. So if a department already has something digitized, we can take existing digital images and build this searching archive and add it to it. So that's the context. So I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to show you one we just completed for Winnesheek County, I think last week. So it's probably the newest one. And in this particular archive, we have documents for the recorder's office as well as the auditor's office. And I'm only going to focus in on the auditor's office. So they had a few private records. So we have the ability to also have private content, which is why there's username, password. If it's all public records, public that you're willing to let everybody see, they have military discharge records that only the staff wants to be able to see. So I'm just going to go in under public document access right here. Okay. And you can see we have some records here from the auditors and the recorder's office. Okay. So when we get this, we try to tailor the search tools to the type of record series that it is. And I'm gonna focus in on the supervisor minutes because it's what you're most familiar with. So you can see we have supervisor records actually right here. And here's the drop-down listing of all the years that we had for this particular project from 2021 all the way back to the 1800s. So you can actually just select a particular book and hit browse and bring up that entire book. And we always present it to you in a thumbnail first. And then when you want to start reading, you just left click on any of these documents and it's going to make it into a PDF. Again, where the user, everything I'm doing, you can do and the users will be able to do when they're searching. And so these handwritten books, if you want to be able to read it, you just want to go to the next page, you can just click here, and you're just basically going through the book page by page on this old handwritten material. There's not a great way to search handwritten because you can't do word searches on handwritten content, but at least you've got beautiful images. Again, the goals are typically to preserve and protect these books so that if you have a water event or a fire event or somebody gets hold of a book and doesn't put it back where it's supposed to be.
That was gonna be one of my questions.
Because I've heard that some people have access to grab that book, so.
So you can't do a word search on handwritten documents?
Correct.
Okay, because I was gonna ask, well, how are you
Yeah.
gonna do
The
that?
best we can do on that, Steve, is we go to, once I have these up, we have them by year. So, we
You
don't,
take a picture of every page?
we take a picture of every page. I'm going to show you the video.
Wow,
how
that's
we
gonna
do
take
that.
a long time.
Oh, I just left one of our teams is up in Storm Lake right now on site, and we had another county that wanted to see it. So they came over, we did a tour yesterday, and it's not fast, but you can see on this handwritten ones, at least you can get down to, I guess in this particular one, we actually did the month and the year. So if you wanted the beginning of a particular year, at least you can jump to it here. So that's as good as we can really do, in terms of search on the handwritten stuff. But as you know, the last 100 years have been typed. All right. So that opens up a whole new opportunity. So we have word search. So we run a process called optical character recognition, which is where we're reading those typed content. So now I hit word search here. Now I can type in if I want to search for something like a festival. All right. Oops. Why is it not taking my? There we go. I know I type slow, but. So I just wanted to search the word festival and I'm looking across all the documents. So it found 7 documents just like that with the word festival in there. Now it gives me a little snippet of each one. So if I'm, here's the festival fashion show. Again, this is Winnesheek County. This is Decorah. So one-day festival. So I can narrow that down by choosing a particular year. If I have a person's name, say someone by the name of Reynolds or a vendor, I could put a vendor's name in. I haven't even tested to see what we'll have for Reynolds, I assume. So I have 18 documents that found the word Reynolds. Then I can narrow that down. I can put Reynolds and resolution. If there was a resolution that Reynolds had made, and it'll narrow it down. So I don't have to look at all of these, but I can open up any one of these that I want. Again, this is pulling pages from different books, because that's the thing with if you want to find something They're always put away by date. But when you want to find something, you don't know the date. That's the problem. So this allows you to do a word search for a topic, an event. I had a county in Montana last week that said, they put this in, they said, had we not had this, we would not have found a document that allowed us to win a lawsuit. There was a document that we needed that we would never be able to find, but they were able to put in the right words to find the page, and it supported their lawsuit. I thought that was a great story that,
So it goes back to when it's typed, it can
Mhm.
select, it just can't go back to the handwritten.
Correct.
To pull it, okay.
and most of the counties, and I don't remember your particular, goes back to about 1920. So really like the last 100 years is all typed. So you pretty much, are able to search across everything. And then you can also, besides adding more here, you can narrow it down by a year, a decade. So if you said, well, I don't want to look, if you brought, this only brought back 18, but I could say, I only want to see the decade of the 80s. Nope, I picked one that didn't have anything in. Right, 70s. Reynolds maybe is a more recent person. I didn't even notice the dates.
Sometimes I've found it's pretty hard to interpret the 1860s handwriting.
Well, right. So looking at these dates on here, if these are. More recent. No. You get the idea. I'm not, I didn't notice what years those were, but you have the ability to narrow it down to a year or a decade. In this case, even a month, because with this particular archive, we did it by the month. So that's word search, and it's very powerful. Again, it takes a little practice because you have to know what you're asking for. And we use Boolean. So Boolean allows you to put in, so if you put in the full name, so I can put in Keisha Johnner, okay? Then it has to say Keisha Johnner together. Keisha's here and Johnner somewhere else, it won't find it under Boolean. Boolean is a librarian search tool, very powerful, but again, you have to know how to search. Typically the public that doesn't use it very often, they're just going to put in, hey, I'm concerned we need to do a leash law. Let's find out, did we ever do anything with leash laws here in Marion County? So you can type in dogs, you can type in leash laws, and just see what you get for returns. Again, it's looking at all the documents. So it's a very powerful way to search. Okay. I'm not going to go on to this very much, but if you wanted to search, so I'm going to go back to browse and show you the transfer books. So one thing we do with transfer books is they're organized by every book by section, township, range, or subdivision, block, and lot. And typically you have to go to a book and it tells you to go to the next book and tells you to go to the next book, right? You're following it through. We index every page. So we bring back all those pages from different books together. So here, if it's in the country and I say I want a section, township, range, you can see my drop downs change, and I can actually put in specific content that I want here. Mouse is not working. Okay, so it brought me back 4 pages that met that criteria, again, from different books. And then I can go through here, open them up, read them, and I can follow that property going back in time. In this particular county, they wanted to show the most recent ones. Most auditors say, yeah, show me the most recent ones, and then going back to the oldest ones. Again, just a little different search tool because of the way these books are constructed.
So David, help me understand the process in which, if your company is no longer, they say they go out of business.
Yep.
Then how do we get that information? Is that transferred to us, or how does that work?
Yep. So whenever we do a project, again, we come on site, we take the pictures I'm about to show you the video of. When we get out, when we leave, we take the images, we do the processing, the naming, the color processing, all the different pieces. And then we build that archive, and then we provide you the link. You put the link on your website. And so let's say, we go out of business in 3 years. Okay, every year, we're going to send you a bill for maintaining that. If we go out of business, we give you a backup hard drive as part of the standard operating procedure of all your images. So when you're all done and we build this, you're going to get a hard drive. We recommend that you put that on your server somewhere, or at least keep the drive in a safe place so everybody knows where it is. So you always have the images that we have created for you. Now, if you turn us off, you say in 5 years, I don't want to pay the maintenance anymore. And I've had some college universities, hard times financially, that they've had some. 6 years I've been doing this, I've never had a county that said, no, this isn't providing its value. You could. And then you've got those images. So you've got to put them somewhere, but you've got the beautiful images. Great.
So the annual fee is basically a maintenance.
Storage of the, because we're, the archive, all these images are sitting in our server, not on your server. So you don't have to worry about one other way for people to backdoor in to have ransomware or for some virus in. Again, we're hosting those images. The link when they hit it is going to our server where we're hosting your images.
So the annual fee is basically an update every year of new material being added.
It's just hosting what you currently have. Now, would there be opportunities to add additional things, and those are all treated as separate projects? And it might add a little bit. So if the next year you want to do election results, we would scope how many election results that would be. Would we get them digital? Would we come back here? Well, how many pages would it add? And it might add another $100 to the annual fee.
So, but every year then you get a new hard drive.
Yes, if we do another project, you're going to get a backup hard drive
Okay.
if we do additional project. Yep.
Okay.
And so you're completing through what year then? Are you completing through?
I think in the minutes, I think we scoped 2022, because I don't like to do part of a year because nobody knows where stuff is. So then we typically going forward, we either do a year at a time or a couple years at a time, and we can do it digitally. So sometimes we'll set up a process so they can deliver us the scanned images. We don't have to come here to do 100 pages. There's a digital process of doing that. And I've got some counties, I have a county in Colorado that wants us now to do their county agreements because he says, I can find things in here that I never knew I could find. So we're doing county agreements, but he said, before you do those, we got to do this more often. So we're doing it quarterly for him. So we're updating his agreements on a quarterly basis and the minutes on a quarterly basis because he relies on it now so much. So, we're kind of trending towards, doing it a little bit more often, but typically on minutes, it's annual. So you do your normal process of creating your agenda management, you create these minutes, and then once a year or once every 2 years, we get those new ones added in so that they're all part of the searchable archive that the public has access to. Okay. So it is, you have the ability to add new content, certainly, but we're a archive. So there's a pretty documented process to get information. You're not dropping individual, every meeting doesn't get dropped in here. This is an archive.
Right, so when we're looking at the cost here, we're looking at a project cost of just shy of 40.
Correct.
To do the project.
That's correct.
And then the annual fee is $24.10.
Correct.
And that annual fee is a maintenance fee, really just hanging on to those documents for us on your website
Yep, keeping all the search
and
tools.
providing a backup copy of those
Yep.
documents. Any new documents, we do it quarterly,
Correct.
semi-annually, whatever we
If-
decide to do.
Yep.
We're gonna pay another project fee
Correct.
to put those documents in
Correct.
in
And
addition to that annual maintenance cost.
that's correct. And it's entirely up to the county if they want to do anything new or not. I mean, like our minutes are available online now. The search isn't as the search is you kind of got to go find the document, those
Right,
types of things. We've
right.
been doing, I mean, I think they're available and we've been doing our own election results. But it's like it's a picture type thing. You got to just pick an election and go look, that type of thing.
Okay.
But it would be entirely up to the county if they want to do anything new or not.
Got it.
And
Thank
a
you.
lot of times what happens is, you want to add something else. So the way I always look is there something while we're here. If we're bringing the equipment here, which I'm about to show you, it's quite a deal to set this equipment up.
Sure.
That we like to do. That's why we do multiple departments many times when we come there. But again, sometimes it's a political process. That's pretty easy.
Yeah, so Jake, the fund that you're referencing though in here, just give us a little insight into that.
Yeah,
fund.
okay, so the fund that I'm proposing that this, and we kind of approached it as let's get the project done a one-time hit. We've been talking about this within our office for quite some time. I just haven't moved very quickly. But instead of doing it incrementally, we have a fund called the County Government Assistance Fund. The fund has been in existence for as long as I've been in the office. The title, I do not know why it's titled that. It's not used for like the general assistance that like Mike Kuhn used to do or public health
Right.
is now. It's not that.
Right.
That's general fund. This is just a special revenue fund that's been in existence, like I said, for as long as I've been here. I don't really have code driven. I don't know that I have code driven language as to its detailed uses. Historically, it has been used for basically two things. One is the purchase and then selling of county plat books from an outside vendor. So we used to purchase over 100 plat books a year. Now we're down to 20 or less that we purchase and make available for people. We used to give them to all the sheriff's deputies and road departments and all those.
Right, right.
So that's kind of how that all started. And then if the public would want some, they could come and purchase them, and that front end cost would come out of this fund, and then any receipts we would get for selling plat books would go back into it. So it was never quite 100%, but a close return. And the only other thing effectively that this has been used for over years is over the years, the county acquired very unluckily like some old gas station cleanup sites. There would be an old gas station. It was one in Melcher and one in Bussy are the two that I remember. Steve probably remembers them because I believe we worked together on the grants for those types of things. So I believe we would probably acquire those properties as the taxes were defaulted, and then it would go to tax sale, and then the county's name would be on it, and the tanks would have to be removed and cleaned up and monitored. So those projects, there would be a one-time cleanup, and then there would be for however many years, I don't know, monitoring. We would front the cost to monitor those or get them tested. And then engineer's office would fill out some sort of a grant application and submit to the state, and we'd get that money back from the state. So that's effectively what this fund has been used for.
What are we budgeting in that fund on an annual basis?
Effectively, I do not recall a specific mark if we did very much other than just amount of plat books, and the fund only has $66,000 in it. So a very minimal amount has been budgeted over the years for this project or for this fund.
Yeah, and the only thing thinking about is just replenishing that if you do something like this,
Mhm.
you take your maintenance fees out
Yeah.
of the same funds. You just make sure you've got enough to cover those
Yeah, and if
additional
you,
costs.
if the annual fee, like I said, there really isn't any new income coming into this fund. So if that annual fee may need to come from like either my department or your department or
Something
Department
else.
99, yeah.
Okay, good.
for
Thank you.
That annual fee.
Thank you.
I'll show you a quick 5-minute video and then I'll just field any questions you have. So
Perfect.
people like to see, what does this equipment look like? How does it take these pictures? So we have a couple different customized cameras that we bring in. The first one is any books that come apart, loose documents, or we call them pin books. Some of the books, like the supervisor, would be pinned and some are bound. So here's how the ones that we handle for pin. So we hook up every camera to an air compressor. You can't hear it. So the camera sits up above. It's a digital camera. So this is not a scanner. This is a digital camera that's taking a picture of every page. And if you look down on the screen, you're going to see little pinholes. That's actually drawing air down through there, kind of sucking that document down to get it as flat as possible. And then he reaches over and hits that yellow button to take the picture. But it's literally one page at a time with these individual documents, because again, this book comes apart. We present this as either a single or 2-page spread, depending on how the record reads. And the reason we use green is because we do color processing. All these images will have color in them. But part of our process after we're gone is doing a color process where we drop out all that green, and then you have those nice tight edges that you saw. Okay. And then the modification for bound books, in this case, the air compressor raises and lowers the whole platform. That green is kind of a soft green felt. And you see it, the air compressor is lowering it down. He'll open up and he'll turn the page. Because sometimes in the gutter, there's writing right down in the gutter. You want to get as much as you can, as flat as you can, but you don't want to damage the book. So now it raises it up and it's going to press it tight against that glass. And then he reaches over and takes the picture. And that's one picture. Lowers it back down, opens it up. Yeah. So we bring this equipment on site. For a project like this, we'd probably be here on site for probably 2 to 3 weeks. We have our supervisors are here the whole time. We typically hire a couple people locally to help run the cameras. They get trained and everything. So there'll be a team of 3 or 4 doing this, and probably closer to 2 weeks, but because we typically just work regular business hours, we don't work nights or anything like that. We set up this equipment as close as we can. We find a suitable room. Sometimes we have to kick the supervisors out of their room. So that has happened.
2 or 3 weeks, that's pretty impressive. I figured it'd take longer than that.
Yeah, well, we usually set up 3 of these cameras. And,
Oh, okay.
yeah, we set up
multiple.
3 of these
Okay.
usually at each office. But yeah, we get a couple books done per camera per day. It's not a fast, speed is not our goal. Quality is our goal.
Right.
Looking at every image, making sure that we get a beautiful image, because we don't want to have you do this again. This is a one-time kind of a preservation project.
Appreciate that.
All right. Any other general questions you have? That's what I wanted to cover today.
I have a question for Jake. Do you have the documents targeted specifically right now that you want?
Yeah, so this is effectively doing all those board supervisor minute books that are in the basement. We do have some books 1 through 20, or what is it, that we have actually microfished in storage in a mine somewhere in Missouri. But this would be taking new pictures of that. My understanding is that trying to use those old microfished documents that have 0 indexing in them, the quality just isn't good. It's best to just take the picture new again.
Microfilm is one generation.
So-
moved already. So you can take a picture of microfilm, but you're losing quality every generation. So if the physical books exist, you're always going to get the best quality. They're going back to the.
So I don't recall, how many minute books do we have? 24, I think. Well, we're doing 25 currently right now, right? So 24 board of supervisor minute books. Yeah, and so those are all the ones from the beginning of time. And ours look exactly like those. I mean, they're hand bound, the writing and the other ones we would be doing is the auditor transfer books that are in Ann's office.
What about the recorder's office?
Naomi has her own project going. She has
Okay.
it's a way bigger project than this, and she's also on this path. She's just going about it for her standard for the
Do
way she
we
wants
have
it.
anything out here, Jake, that might be included in that? Or-
Not that I'm aware of. It's
'Cause
nothing from the clerk of court or any of
Well,
those
some of that
things.
stuff wasn't all clerk of court stuff.
No, I believe a lot of it might have been some treasurer books and things like that,
Okay.
but that is not part of this project, and I don't know that has
I couldn't
that
remember what all was out here.
has that
that we-
requirement. A lot of that got purged.
And again, if you identify any of the departments that you want me to talk with, I just ask the questions about who uses it, what the retention is on it. Because I always want to make sure it's permanent record. I don't want to do things that could be gotten rid of. I'm all about getting rid of stuff. But if you want to identify future projects.
I don't like to because I'm kind of a historical preservationist, but sooner or later you're gonna run out of physical room, but
Great. And Jake, you got sign offs from everybody, from Jared
Yeah,
and.
so Jared has reviewed, Andrew has looked at it. Also, the annual fee, he did not have a problem with in today's environment. And I believe, I don't know the quote that he actually said, but anytime we can digitally preserve any of this stuff is fantastic.
I'm going to make a motion to approve this agreement.
I appreciate that.
I will second that.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
thank you very much. And I apologize for going over 10 minutes.
That's all right. Thank you. Thank
Thanks,
you.
David.
Yes,
Thank you.
Item number 2.
Thank you.
Is discussion action on Class C retail alcohol license for KLN. Believe the sheriff and I believe environmental health signed off. I'm not for sure. Have you heard anything in regards to this? Jake?
I lose track. I'm quite confident the sheriff did. We have 2 of them on here and I don't recall specifically, but there's been I've received no negative feedback from item number 2 or number 3.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve this renewal.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye. Item number 3 is also a Class C retail alcohol license for Wacko's Bar and Grill. There's no further discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
Moving along. Item number 4 is a discussion action regarding appointments. Pella's Board of Adjustment is, those are terms that we are now needing to appoint due to the 1 mile territorial, what is that extra? How do we say that? What's the?
Extraterritorial.
Yeah, extraterritorial we have a 1 mile radius around Pella. So when it comes to Vince Nossaman, as reappointing, we also have, and I'd like to make this announcement, we also have an opportunity for another Board of Adjustment appointment if the board or we have somebody that wants to apply. This Larry Lautenbach was, and Larry had resigned. And we need to try to find somebody that actively uses their ground that they live on for agricultural purposes. So just keep that in mind. And if we have somebody that would like to
I
apply.
just want to make sure we're clear, Keisha. So we've got an approval.
Yep.
For an existing seat, and you're saying we could have one more.
Yes, we have one more
For
open.
this,
Yep, yep.
but it has to meet that qualification.
Correct. Yep.
That it's relatively new qualifications that have really tightened down the area or the pool. That Keisha used to be on on
I was
PNC,
on P and Z. Yep.
and now is no longer eligible because of it came from the state level.
Right, okay.
So yes, this would be making that appointment approved Vince Nossaman.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve Vince to the term ending 5/1/2028.
Second,
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
aye,
Ramey.
Aye.
Item number 5 is appointments for Pella Planning and Zoning Commission. Currently, we have Terry Boss and Mark Vandenoord. No discussion. I'll entertain a motion.
Yep, I'll make a motion to approve both appointments for Terry and Mark.
second,
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Now, just again,
Mhm.
Keisha, where are is that opening posted somewhere where people?
No,
Can't
I
get
just
to
wanted
that.
to make that announcement. We were just made aware of it when Larry had resigned
Okay.
and then,
They go through the city of Pella, Jake, or do
So
they go
the-
through us?
On our website, I did, like, if you go to the boards and commissions that we have listed through, so our website, board supervisor page, and then the boards and commissions, it does have vacancy there.
Okay.
So we did remove that name. Also, I believe the site also has the application, if anybody wants to fill out an application and turn it in. I don't know of any special announcement. So if someone would want to create that and put it as a news topic or something that there's a vacancy, that could be, but I think that's the only way it's really announced now is the listing of people who's on it as vacant.
Yeah,
So
okay,
if
very
that
good.
wants to be stepped forward. And then what was the other question?
I don't know.
Yeah, so the process. So the board, you guys make approve a recommendation or approve your appointment, and then these then go through city council because it's technically the Pella P and Z and Pella Board of Adjustment.
Okay,
So they wait until you've made your recommendation, and then that will be on their agenda moving forward.
very good. Thank you.
item number 6 is for appointment of the Marion County Planning and Zoning Commission. We had a vacancy there and Joe Cunningham had applied.
Oh, good.
So.
Yeah.
If there's any discussion, if not,
No, I'll make a motion to appoint Joe to term ending 12/31/2025, Marion County Planning and Zoning.
I'll second.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McComb.
Aye,
Item number 7, resolution 2023-51. It's in regarding the lost fund, local option sales and service tax for the interest payment on the law enforcement.
I can take this very briefly. This is an annual event that the board has undertaken ever since the law enforcement center was built, and it is fulfilling a pledge. It's not by ballot language, but it's fulfilling a pledge to use local option sales tax money towards the principal and interest payment of the law enforcement center to reduce the debt service levy. So this is the administrative mechanism for the treasurer to be able to move money. We're not allowed to move money between funds without your permission. Claims, you write checks out of certain funds, but removing. So this allows the transfer from our local option sales tax fund to our debt service fund, which then will write the payments for the annual interest and principal
Right.
payment on the law enforcement center.
And Jake, is this the penultimate payment?
One more,
Yeah.
So we have
One more.
24, okay.
All right.
one
Very
more
good.
payment.
Any discussion, board? Not, I'll entertain a motion.
I make a motion, we approve resolution 2023-51.
Second.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Item number 8 is resolution 2023-52 is the Iowa DOT agreement addendum. Tyler?
So last May, you approved an agreement for side road paving of along Highway 92 for, I believe it was 195th. This is something we've typically done adjacent to highway or state highway projects to improve safety for the traveling public, but also our motor grader operators don't have to get the motor grader out onto the state highways to work those intersections. The addendum to this agreement, so that was included in the original agreement, was basically paving those aprons on a gravel side road. The addendum is to include a mill and overlay adjacent to the turn lane additions at Highway T17. So the state is, as part of their Highway 92 rehabilitation project, is adding left turn lanes and a right turn lane at T17, increasing the radiuses for on all four corners for truck movements. And as part of that, I went out and looked at our pavement condition. We overlaid in 2016. This project will happen next year. Because of the volume of truck traffic and turning and stopping, we've got quite a bit of deterioration already. We're halfway through the useful life. And so to coincide with the work that the state's doing, I found that we probably should just go ahead and rehabilitate where we have all that turning and stopping movement. It will help set us up better for the next time we do a pavement improvement project. We don't have to include the intersection in our project. So the addition is just to do pavement rehabilitation on the through lane portion of T17 for both the north and south leg. Because the state's already doing the widening and increasing the radius as part of their project.
Any budgetary impacts, Tyler?
For us, yeah, we would be increasing the amount shown. I don't have it.
The 75-45, the amendment? Or is it the 45?
The total says 40.
I just don't know what it says, the
Yeah.
green here down below, so I
That's
wasn't
what,
sure.
yeah, it's gotta figure out what that is.
So 6,000
In addition to what you've already.
in addition to what we
Okay,
approved
so that's-
last year. Yeah.
Got it.
An additional 6.
Perfect. Thank you.
So that would come from our, actually comes from our farm to market account. They just pull these, anything on a farm to market route, they just pull from our account.
From that account. Got it. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
Nope.
Entertain a motion. Resolution 2023-352.
I make a motion, we approve resolution 2023-52.
Second.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye. Item number 9 is discussion for the road department junction 92 project funding.
So the first thing I want to do is thank you as the board members for your support of this project. Mark, we've been talking about this for the 9 years I've been here, and in some fashion or another, and you've always supported the Junction 92 project and the road department's efforts there. Steve, you've been involved for a couple decades on that in some fashion or another, and Keisha, you too, since your election, we've seen your support as well. I'd like to take the next steps to move forward. We have had I think we've had the close of the legislative session, what the impacts mean to property taxes. I don't know that we know the full extent of that, but I wanted to just keep this at the forefront of our this discussion on the forefront with you. Who and how do we process and decipher the property tax legislation and the potential impacts? How do we go about doing that?
So
To-
let's stop right there for a minute,
Yep.
Tyler. Jake, given that we now know what the legislature is going to attempt to do with their applause line property tax revisions, What do we have a number? Do we have an estimate?
N-
Originally,
no.
we were thinking
So
in the 150 range.
This is, so, I think the 150 range was when they did Senate File 181 last.
Yep.
Last
Yep.
session, and that's over. That's done. That's actually been applied. That correction, from the Department of Revenue was applied to the 1/1/22 values, and used, for the budgets that are being approved, had to be approved by April 30th for the FY 24 budget. So, that's why everything got pushed back a month, and like Knoxville had, everybody had to wait. We all got our new valuation. So that is over.
Okay.
On really what, at least what I know at this point, from what the legislatures just finished and approved, is that they finished and approved, I don't even know the number anymore, the House files, something.
Yeah, I don't know that.
They've approved it. Now people are trying to figure out what it means. So I know that there is a there's lots of groups trying to figure out what it means, because really it's quite complex. I know that there's a group of auditors, assessors, Department of Management, are all going to meet over the next month to try and determine what's in that bill, and with some vendors to try and figure out what it really means.
Okay.
I'm not sure I can't give you a number because I just don't know.
We just know the caps, the 350, the
Yeah,
395.
and that's all, I believe it's still dependent on assessment growth. I don't know if that I really don't know if that assessment growth is 100% or taxable. And
So-
so rollback, so.
Yeah, so I appreciate you saying that because I wanted that on the record.
Okay.
That they passed property tax reform and it is so convoluted, we have no idea what the monetary impacts will be. I want you to get that. Simple, transparent, objective was not in this legislation. But they got their applause line. Iowans for Tax Relief got their applause line. So what does it mean for us, Tyler, relative to what we've laid out for financing for this project?
Yeah, and that's what kind of my question is, what are the implications? Because the project is going to be, to my knowledge, unless you tell me different, reliant on property tax from the general fund. And
Do you have another funding
And
source you would
I
recommend?
don't. If I did, we wouldn't be here. We would have had this project underway already.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, the timing of this has all been terrible the last 2 or 3 years for this project, and when we've seen nothing but inflation growth in our project, and it's still happening. And our architect a month ago said the market has stabilized for construction, but now, last week he told me it's more volatile than they thought. Unfortunately, the bidding market for vertical construction. So
So Tyler,
and I do have one question
Okay,
before we get off the property
Okay.
tax thing. Do we know the effective date of that? I haven't.
It's,
Is it July 1?
it's affect
parts of it,
FY
yes.
25, I believe is when it started.
Yeah. So there's parts that I thought that went into effect, and then like it's 24 for some of the bond stuff, and I still think we're gonna have to get a timeline. And how
But
this
the
is-
structure of it though, for us, really doesn't. The caps, we already have a 350 cap.
Right.
So it doesn't change anything for us
Right.
from the general fund. The 395 cap on rural services,
Right.
we already do that.
Yeah, so I believe part of the calculation, Mark, is the actual level of general fund for us, general fund. Cities have their I don't know if they call it the general fund or the $8.10 fund, whatever that is.
Right.
I believe it takes into effect the valuation, and then at $3.50, how much your property tax ask, because can be. So if it is higher than a 3% increase over what you ask, so if the county asks for 13 million in property tax, let's say, and this is round,
You're just
breaks down by
rounding,
fund.
yeah, figured.
if it's greater than a 3% increase from the actual ask, your levy will be less than 350. So your max might be 348.
Right.
Or something like that. I believe that's the structure.
Right. They're trying to implement more restrictively what they did several years ago
Right,
when we had the public hearing.
right. They
They
added
said
the
if
public
your
hearing.
evaluation goes X, you really should bring your levies down
Right.
to compensate for that. even though valuations have been crazy.
Right.
So,
So Marion County does not have a greater than $3.50 for general and $3.95 for rural supplemental. We
Right.
are at that. Have not exceeded the max.
right, okay.
But correct me if I'm wrong, if we come off the 350, are there implications
Sure.
to the
If you
supplemental
go,
fund?
well, if we go lower than that, all the liabilities for Fund 2 come to Fund 1.
Is that
Is that still
I-
the
I'm
case
not-
with the new legislation?
Well, that's the
I'm
way
not
it
sure
was,
about that,
but see, there you go right there.
That is a huge
Don't know.
implication. I've not seen anything on that. That is a huge implication. But
Does that legislation do that, take care of that, change
Right.
that? I don't have an answer.
I don't
away
believe
the
that they
general
took away the
supplemental.
general supplemental, and that is a restrictive fund for like 10 items, the main being our insurances, health, employee, and
But the old way was if we came off 350.
Yeah.
Which was the requirement to get the general
Right.
supplemental,
right.
all those liabilities revert
And
to
I
Fund
think
1.
now that requirement might, and again, Mark, I don't know this verbatim at all, but I believe that like if we have to reduce from 350 to 340, we're still at the max, so we are allowed to use.
Depending on the
general sup-
valuation,
Correct.
right? Because
Right.
now you're going to use those two as
Yeah.
the, whatever the max is.
Our max
Got it.
will fluctuate, is my
Got
understanding.
it. So there may be some mitigation to that, but we'll have to get that.
And we don't
Settled.
use rural supplemental anymore. So we wouldn't lose that at the.
Right.
From that standpoint.
So I think,
so with-
at least from my perspective, Tyler, until I know more financially.
Yep.
I've perused the outline. I don't think it materially impacts us because we already are at those caps. The question is going to be valuation versus where our general fund levy has to go. So if we keep going at 30% clips on assessments. If that would happen, that's going to impact some of that.
Mm.
If I understand
I believe that's
the
correct.
math.
It will reduce, we will be maxed at the property tax dollar collection
So our
level.
dollars
which
could
will-
potentially stay the same. In other words, we have a fairly level revenue expectation, but we can't go up.
They're gonna cap your
Limits the
growth.
up, and if valuations drop, then it's not applicable, I guess.
Right, doesn't matter. So,
And really, the discussion pertaining to this project is your comfort level with the general fund balance. And if we do reduce the balance to fund the project, how comfortable are you with that balance and how quickly do we recover with the new legislation, maybe in 2025? Because the project's nearing completion by FY 25. So the fund balance takes the brunt of it initially, and how quickly can it recover with revenue, with new revenue
what's our,
or
pro-
reduced expense?
yeah,
somewhere
what's our
else, which I
projections on that,
don't
Jake? Do we
wanna
have
say,
those?
Well, we've just been working on the amendment for this year, and I mean, the projection, again, I don't have it in front of me today, but the projections are still quite solid for our fund balance, and I believe we are at 7 million actual dollars as of the end of the month.
Yeah.
And I think the projected budget had was it 3 or 4? I don't mean to sound like 3 million to maybe a $4 million projected fund balance at the end of this year, which will probably be more solid than that. So those levels are still very doable, and anticipate them being higher than that. I don't recall how much general fund money this was asking for versus the local option sales tax money, because at this point, they haven't done anything else with local option sales tax. That fund continues to grow for this project. So that
And-
has a very healthy balance.
Yeah, the cash
For this
outlay, we
project.
went on, what, 59%? Did we settle on, Tyler, for cash outlay?
To date.
Yeah.
Something 54 or 57,
Okay.
something like that, right?
I mean, as far as the general fund goes I mean, we have a very, we have a substantial balance. And so right now I have no problem with the current structure, even with this legislation.
In previous projections that I had sent to you, in a very lengthy email, I know.
Yeah.
But we're probably more conservative than the general fund balances that we're seeing now, which basically we're reverting us back to a general fund balance of 3 years ago.
Correct.
So if we end this current fiscal year higher than what I'm projecting or was projecting, we may be able to fund the project and end with a fund balance of what we thought we were going to end this current fiscal year. 2 years from now, we'll be where we thought we were
Right.
today. And,
Yeah, I think,
and if you're comfortable with that, then we can,
yeah, and
I can put those projections together and assume, minimal growth for valuations and new revenue. And we can look forward and then we know with general fund and with maybe some additional local option sales tax, basically using up the entirety of the local option sales balance, we can probably get this project completed.
Mhm. Yeah, I have no issues with the structure. And if you want to put those more detailed financials together, Jake, once we know more, I think that's the right approach. The rationale for why we were going to do this has not changed. Just because property tax legislation was passed, the need for an updated shop, when you just think about the incurred costs of maintenance and depreciation and repair by not being able to house and have the repair facilities we need in an upgraded way. Worker safety is a critical issue. Those haven't changed. Those needs haven't changed in my mind.
Jake,
And if we've learned anything about inflation, this is a long-term investment in a new
Yeah.
facility and we'll be here for a long, long time. And
Yeah, and the volatility that's in the economy now is not going away anytime soon. So we can't base it on that alone.
so Jake, do you think we could find something out this month and possibly board, we could maybe do this in June and hopefully maybe have an action?
I mean, I don't know how soon people will, how soon we'll be able to, I can't say that. I would assume
who is-
that would be a
like-
lot closer.
ISAC's going.
who is
to be
our
able-
best reference, I guess, on
ISAC is,
ISAC
yeah, and they're,
is-
and they
yeah.
have not given us a final update legislatively wise, and I know why, because they're waiting, because they know we're gonna be asking all these questions. So I'm assuming we're going to be receiving something here in the next week or two. But we do need to be able to have time to digest some of that and then continue to ask questions of we as a board and Jake. And then, but do you feel that in July that some of these prices will increase? Is it better if we do something in June or?
at this point, so my most recent conversation with our architect is, so to give you an update on the schedule, we are planning to have a bid ready set of plans by the end of July. So the earliest we could go out for bid is August. Historically, summer for all, road construction and vertical building construction is higher in the summer. Because if we wait, it might align better. If we wait till fall or early winter, it may align better with the funding, because we have to have the fund balances available that we're talking about. So it may work better for allowing us to cross fiscal years. And it may help us on the bid climate. But in the same breath, the volatility of the construction market is an unknown, and predicting, bid prices July versus December, our architect and what we've seen in road construction, it's just not normal. So so it's hard to say. But schedule wise, if we can, sometime in June, if we could have get our head around the legislation and have something, more palatable to predict or do projections on, I could come with a formal proposal and the impacts to all the funds that we're talking about based on those projections and the new legislation.
That
And-
including the loss fund. The
Yeah.
Legislation on the loss fund.
Oh, well,
And it did change. It's
That
changed.
didn't change.
Sure.
and right
Next
now,
year.
my proposal
Not
doesn't.
yet.
And
Not
right
yet.
now, my proposal doesn't include any lost revenue beyond FY 24. So,
And I think that's the right approach, Tyler. I would agree with that approach.
Yeah, I mean, I think you get the board's intent this whole time is to use those multitude of sources now. If bonding is off the table for the secondary road fund, the local option sales tax fund is a really good resource. And then the general fund is the backfill or the finisher.
Mhm.
And then your intent was to use some of that fund balance. I guess what I'm hearing and feeling is that that stays the same, even with this new legislation. The new legislation hopefully won't take us drastically backwards from operational standpoint, because then it's another whole ballgame. I mean, right? So
Mhm.
kind of
Well,
a couple
but it's-
different directions there. It's
until-
gonna give you a really good feeling.
Yeah, but until, so you're right.
Yep.
So until we need a detailed proposal.
Yep.
Taking into account these variables with what we think property tax will be. Sales tax, of course, and what that calculation is, even if it's only for one fiscal. So that we can get some idea of what that impact will be, Jake.
Yeah.
Where does the general fund balance come down to? What's an adequate reserve, 20%, 23, 25?
Yeah,
Of
that's always the
expense.
tough question.
Right. And we need to be able to see that on paper. So I would say, for me anyway, I would say yes, go forward and get that detailed analysis done. So we can make a better informed decision.
He does a fantastic job of putting his costs and breaking that stuff out, so.
Yeah, it's really.
And we'll
updating
share
what we
any
did a few
information we
months
get
ago.
from anybody that starts putting out information. I'm sure the entire state is doing this
Yeah.
similar as to what we are.
Thank you, Tyler. Sounds like you
Okay.
directive, and we'll see you again next month then regarding this. So
Thank you.
Good, thank you.
entertain a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Second,
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
aye.
Item number 10 is the public hearing portion to consider the approval of the proposed Atkins Urban Renewal Plan. Mark?
No,
Yes,
This is
I don't
just-
know if you
yeah,
want
no, I
anything
know,
or not.
But yeah, didn't know if,
Nothing has
Anything?
changed since our last meeting, so this is just the.
This
public
is part of
hearing
the
component.
financing mechanism that
Yep.
the county is pursuing for the public infrastructure.
Everything is contained within the agreement, what we have discussed over many board meetings. So nothing has changed from our last discussion.
Renee, do we have any public comments online? All right. Not. Entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Item number 11 is resolution 2023-53. This is determining an area of account of the county to be an essential economic development area, sorry. So same thing, but it's approving the resolution. As Mark stated, there's no changes. Board has any other comments or questions?
No.
Entertain a motion.
None for me. I would move to approve the resolution.
Second,
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye. Item number 12 is Allers and Cooning, the Bond and Disclosure Council engagement agreement.
Pretty standard.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's absolutely the standard agreement that you guys have entered into at least twice before. There's kind of two pieces to Allers during all these projects. Nathan Overberg generally does the setting up of the URA, the urban renewal area documents and the development agreements and those types of things. And we already have that in place with Allers. And then Steve Nadel is an attorney at Allers as well, and he generally handles the financing side. So this is engagement services to take the county, if you continue moving forward for the financing sizes for the bonds for the infrastructure for the Atkins project.
And corresponding to this, Jake, we'll have our Moody's call
Yeah,
on Wednesday,
it's
right?
Wednesday at 2:00.
No further discussion. We'll entertain a motion.
And
Just. Steve, yeah, hang on, we'll bring in the microphone.
Steve Woodhouse with the Marion County Express. I was just wondering if this is an agreement. I know you use Allers and Cooney for a lot of these and you have for several years. But is this a service that you might want to bid out to make sure you're still getting the best deal? Or are there only or is Allers and Cooney the only expert available to do this?
great question. So you want to answer? Do you want me to?
I can try if that, I mean,
Go ahead.
there's a couple main ones from a local a local attorney standpoint, I believe it's an area that most don't practice in. There's Dorsey Whitney is the one, and Allers and Cooney are the two main firms in Iowa that do these projects, these types of things.
So Jake's exactly right. This is a fairly limited skill set in doing these types of agreements and deals. And when we're dealing with bonding, Steve, one of the things I look for is familiarity. So when you get a group that's familiar with Marion County and how they talk then to the different agencies, the different parties that are involved in the process, it's good to have somebody that knows who you are. So rating from a price standpoint, we would not save probably a lot of money in in looking for other partners. And it's to our advantage to have somebody that knows us in this kind of deal. I've done a few of these over 30 years.
Any other questions? Discussions? No? Good.
That's a good question, though. Very good
Thank you, Steve.
question.
Not, we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve this agreement.
Second,
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
aye,
Item number 13 is resolution 2023-54. A resolution fixing date for the meeting of the authorization of the loan agreement. Not to exceed 2.7 and a half million. So I wanted to make sure when we say not to exceed, obviously for the public and transparency, is that to include any interest payments, things like that, or?
Should have all of that.
Everything? Okay.
Jake,
Yeah, I believe it's a not to exceed. So if they, it would be any costs. So the amount that would be going to Pleasantville and then any issuance costs like we just discussed, or if there is any, I guess any of the interest that's needed to be paid before the levy starts being collected.
correct.
But the amount that's going to this, that the city's requesting hasn't changed to my.
That
knowledge.
has not changed at all.
2,030,000
right,
or something.
Yeah,
like
you're
that.
you're covering a differential in case something has
Right.
to be issued in advance.
Yep.
So,
Appreciate the clarity on
no,
that.
that's a good question. Very good question.
Other than that, I don't have any questions. I don't know.
So Steve, you got any questions?
nope,
All right, make a motion to approve this resolution.
second,
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs,
aye,
Ramey.
Aye.
Item number 14 is the public hearing portion. In the state of Iowa in the matter of proposal to enter in the amendment and restated 28E agreement with the city of Knoxville. So we spoke about this last meeting.
Yeah.
Again, this is the public portion. The public has any comments? Seeing none,
All right.
I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
second,
McCombs,
aye,
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner.
Item number 15 is the resolution 2023-55. This is the resolution ratifying and confirming and approving the publication of the notice of the public hearing and approving and authorizing execution of the amended and restated 2080 agreement between Marion County and the city of Knoxville. Read it all.
There you go. There you go. Again, an agreement that we did have a 2080 in place. This is, again, specific to the VA project that we're working on with the city of Knoxville, amending that agreement to cede certain portions of the land that are under development to the city. So it'll become Knoxville proper property, not county property anymore. And Heather is ready to take that on for the city. So we think this is a good change. And then as more land is developed, this 2080 will then be in effect to take care of that as boards and councils talk in the future.
No further questions?
Nope.
Entertain a motion to approve resolution 2023-55.
So moved.
second,
Ramey,
Aye.
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs.
aye,
Item number 16 is discussion action and letter of support. Is it Origin Homes? Is that okay?
Heather, Glenn, you guys want to talk about this at all or?
As you will recall, the first phase is 34 lots. On Monday, council is expected to approve the 2080 on our end, which will begin that transfer. But also next week, we will be appointing a real estate agent to work with us and selling 29 of the lots to individuals, and our website and such will go on live by the end of the week. Those will be conditional sales subject to completion of the transfer land, completion of the improvements for September possessions. So we're hoping to get some individuals with their builders starting in the fall. But we have been able to recruit a builder, commercial builder, to buy 5 of the lots and to build 5 single-family homes subject to workforce housing tax credit application. And they're Origin Homes. They're an LLC that's set up by Hubble that is exclusively building custom homes right now in rural Iowa. But they've identified a number of communities that they'd like to work with to make these workforce housing applications so that they can, having received the credits, build them. These 5 homes are lots 29 to 33. And in order for them to make their application, the city has to approve a resolution identifying financial support and provide a letter of support for them. And since the county is our partner in this project and currently the landowner, a letter of support of Origin's application to IEDA for the tax credit seemed appropriate. And so we sent a draft to Jake, who has finalized it, I think, in the county script.
Right. And we've sent this through legal counsel, both at Allers and with the county attorney.
I believe so. I believe it's
That,
reported
yeah,
as
they've
well.
signed off on this. So
Yeah, this is the letter on that they sent over, forwarded to all the groups, put it on your letterhead for
Yep.
your.
Glenn, I just got a question. So in regards to, is this an application that they're trying to get the tax credit? And then if they, I mean, is this a yes or no type tax credit? So if they don't get it, will they still planning on building, or maybe
The sale will
No.
be conditional on them getting the credits.
Okay.
If they don't get the credits, they still have the option to buy the property and build
Okay.
housing. Because they're a custom builder, they may choose to do that. But it's much easier to make the project pencil if they've got the credits.
Okay.
KEDC in Knoxville did 2 of these that I was involved in on North Harlan and East Village, and we received the credit awards each time. I'd say it's normally about 1 out of 2 or 3, but the city and the county together have invested $16 million in this project. There is no local government in Iowa who's done that. And so I think our application will be received well. Yeah, oh, yes, that's right. Kading received one last year as well.
Any further discussion, board?
Nope.
Not entertain a motion for approval of the letter of support.
so moved.
Second,
Johnner,
Aye.
McCombs,
Aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Thank you, Glenn and Heather. Appreciate it. Appreciate all your work. Item number, well, do we want to take a little bit of a?
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah.
Let me, and I just want to do one thing before we do these. Because we're going to go into a closed and then everybody's going to disappear and then we're going to come back. This one quick announcement that Lisa wanted me to make. Open enrollment for county employees is happening right now. For benefits, Wednesday is the last day. Wednesday is the last day. And then HR is also having harassment training for all managerial personnel. In other words, it's something we do from a compliance standpoint. So if you manage staff, sign up for that May 17th. It's at May 17th at 9 a.m. Correct? So talk to Lisa. If you manage staff, we want you to take this training. All right? Thank you.
So, entertain like a motion to just, do.
Do a
go on
recess.
break. Yeah, recess.
So
5
moved.
minutes. Sorry, Missy, but
Well, we need to gear up for you, Missy. I don't need to it.
so. Anybody make the motion?
I did.
Second,
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Entertain a motion to reconvene into open session.
So moved.
Second,
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey.
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye. Item number 17. Performance evaluation of Missy Poppenberger. Thank you, Missy, for, we had to take a little break there, but we appreciate it. So.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Have a little sticky. I was like, I'm looking for my sticky. So. Missy, I know that this past year has been a little bit of challenge. But I have a few questions to ask you because
Okay.
I just want your perspective. I would like you to share with one thing that you would like to erase from your to-do list. And no, I didn't tell her these beforehand.
To erase from my to-do list.
Yep.
Code enforcement,
Code enforcement. Okay,
that's an easy one.
all right. Okay. And I appreciate that perspective.
Tyler's laughing.
And expand on that. The code enforcement has become quite challenging. Have you seen it ramp up?
Yes, it has. It has ramped up. It has become very time consuming. And unfortunately, at times because of whatever the situation may be, it has to become a first priority where this coming, next Tuesday, I have a zoning meeting and a board of adjustment. So we have 3 rezonings, a subdivision and a special use permit. But the last 3 weeks, it seems like every Monday morning, we have another code enforcement that has to take priority. It's very time consuming. So, and the follow-up, it's not something one and done. It goes on and on and on.
Right. More challenging times, you would say, people just maybe not necessarily doing the research in which they need to do to be able to know what is acceptable and what's not. Is there?
Ignoring.
Okay, all right. I know that you have done maybe something on KNIA Care Less, maybe some code enforcement or something. Is there a way that we could reach an audience? We can better inform?
We have put it out there on the county's channel. We have had, it's been in the paper, it's been on KNIA. It's been shared on the county's website as news articles. We've shared about code enforcement. We've shared about, the other thing is a use change. If you are deciding to move your operation, your repair operation to your home to save money, you need to do your homework first, because that becomes an enforcement issue.
Yeah, we have planning and zoning for a reason.
We have had since 1971.
Yep.
Not new.
And especially those that, I know that we've had some challenges that those that move into the county and that have come from a county that hasn't had zoning before. And yeah, so. Another question I have for you is, what area would you like to grow in? Where do you feel like support wise that you could expound?
I mean, support wise. So, obviously I don't know if you're talking about expanding the department or expanding.
Just you personally, if there's something that you feel like knowledge wise that, that it would help you. In your
My
department.
philosophy through the years is just like I'm going to training next week. If you can go to a training and get 1 or 2 good tips or points, it's well worth the training. I always do research the trainings I take. It's time away from the office to make sure that they're going to be something that there's going to be a value to. The code enforcement training, sometimes they're solely based on cities. So I don't waste my time to go if I don't feel like I'm going to get value out of them. But that's where over the years, whether it be conversations with the attorneys, the planners through trainings, if you can get all that information that you gather through the years builds up to help you lead to the next one. And then you don't need to ask questions or reach out to outside counsel because you already have been there. So.
And I would say that you have a lot of knowledge there in regarding that. And I know when it comes to legal documents, it can become very difficult when it comes to planning and zoning and making sure that everything is, the i's are dotted and the t's are crossed. And I know you're meticulous in that. On the training, do you go, I mean, is there trainings every year or is there?
There's usually, so there's ISAC in the fall and zoning is a part of the fall ISAC training. And then in the spring, zoning, the state zoning has a separate conference.
And you
So-
generally go to those then?
I do go to, I try and go to those, yes. The other thing that, as I forwarded all to you guys, became, ICAP does some really, they did a couple really good trainings that they use Hopkins and Huebner's attorneys, which they were very beneficial, had a lot of good information, so. We're expanding, the resolution for Board of Adjustments to include the facts and findings, some other areas we're expanding and all that just covers us in the future if there's ever to be some legal situation move forward.
Are you able to keep up in your department?
I will tell you the last 3 weeks, the only way I'm keeping up is working 7 to 5. It's become, again, when you have rezonings, phone calls, people, it's the spring, I've not seen a slowdown yet. Again, we have next week, we have 3 rezonings, a subdivision and a special use permit. I know we have 2 to 3 more minor subdivisions for June and a rezoning. Permits we're right at 70 building permits from January to the 1st of May and at 25 land division, which typically we do about 50 a year. So I'm not seeing a slowdown yet. And again, code enforcement is definitely not slowing down.
Back to that. I know we've discussed this in the past, and I think the code enforcement. Some counties have what they call code enforcement officers.
They do.
So what are their duties? How do they, what do they do with them to enforce the ordinances? Do they legally have the authority to go out and?
And write citations, yes, there are counties that do. I've had discussions with all of you. I know Tyler and I've had discussions. I've had this discussion with Kim. There are counties that do. If they send out the notices for whether it be a driveway, a septic, no permit, in 30 days, if they haven't complied, you can send out somebody to write a citation.
These are based on our county ordinances, which are actually in effect, basically county law, not state
I can only
law.
speak for my zoning ordinance and the language in my zoning ordinance or the county zoning ordinance, which does allow you after 30 days to write a citation.
See,
I
that-
can't speak to the other ordinances.
That brings me back. I get so confused on this and why we would. I understand the problem. Believe me, I do. But why would we want to? I don't know that we can afford to hire an enforcement officer, but when the sheriff's departments of these counties are bound to enforce county ordinances, why can't the sheriff's department deal with the enforcement part of that?
I don't have an answer for that.
We do use the sheriff's department.
We
for
do, and I
enforcement.
have had to, this past year, I will say I had never had to issue a stop work order, but I have done 4 of them, which is a part of code enforcement. And obviously I do use a deputy to go out and do that type of work and serve them. But
The question is, and Missy and I have talked about this a lot over the 10 years, is hiring a specific code enforcement individual means you're really going to go out and enforce all your ordinances to the letter of the law. We pass ordinances for order and structure. We have had varied enforcement over the years of those, mostly due to lack of staffing or oftentimes just a lack of desire among boards over the years. to do that. Unless it's an egregious or gross negligence issue. Then we get involved. So hiring somebody sends a message. And from a board standpoint, if you're going to pay somebody to do it, then you're saying, I'm enforcing every code I've got. So you got to be ready to do that. And then there's other costs that you will incur as a result of that, particularly legal costs. So it's a level, it's upping the game on enforcement. So you have to have, I think from a board of supervisor standpoint, to instruct somebody like Missy, you have to have a really strong rationale to do that.
I know that, I mean, we've been talking about this since I come on the board. And it's somewhat of a money issue. It's, another position. It's, then on top of that, it's enforcing it. And possibly, if we enforce, then, incurs cleanups and things like that, that could, cost some money, when it, and, but I understand the frustration. I get it. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to ask you that, was, what is one of those things, because I think we all would say that we have things that we don't necessarily care for, when it comes to, duties of our job.
Well, I don't want to leave this yet. I think, Steve, to your question, though, specifically, it's Missy's job performance is not specifically related to the issue of code enforcement. So I think if we want to have a discussion on
true.
code enforcement
True.
and how we want to approach that with either additional staff, dollars, and et cetera, that's a separate discussion. What we've tasked Missy to do is really take that on an ad hoc basis. And that adds a complicated layer to her job that's really not what she was originally brought on to do. So it's like saying, here's your job description. And oh, by the way, all of their duties as assigned, I'm going to give you a whole nother job
That's
to
fair.
do. That's not what we should be doing.
Your main focus is to do planning and zoning.
Correct.
Yes. No, I appreciate that.
Organized growth in Marion County.
And I appreciate your dedication there. Missy, I know that when we spoke in budget session, you were, contemplating whether needing assistance and things like that. How are you feeling today with the 70 building permits? Where are you at with that?
I feel like. So again, this is kind of a separate from my performance.
But when it comes to your workload, do you feel like you're able to keep up?
Right
Yeah.
now, no.
Okay.
I can't answer that. And again, to add, and I give, and I know Tyler, it's helped Tyler's workload. It helps environmental health. If we didn't have the online permitting that we have, one person could not do it. If you had to enter every permit and process every permit from start to finish, one person could not do it. 95 to 98% of our building permits come in online. I've built a lot of the rezoning packets and stuff into the permitting system so that you only enter the legal once. For two reasons. It's less time consuming and it's more efficient as far as to proofread to make sure, less room for error and that kind of stuff. So, those are all things I've done just to keep my head above water.
Well, I know one of your, definitely one of your strengths is that you are very meticulous in what you do and your dedication, and making sure that it does get done. A single department, we understand that there can be some frustrations there, but you're doing a good job and actually doing an excellent job in my perspective. So I appreciate your dedication to that.
As far as job performance goes, and one of the things that I've looked at over the years, I had asked the other board members the same thing. Have you gotten any complaints about Missy? Every job in Marion County is a public facing job to one degree or another. And what she deals with on the planning and zoning side with permitting, if she was not doing her job well, somebody would be hearing about it in a material way because it's the beginning process for buildings and for how people are going to use their property. So in the 11 years I've done this, I have not heard one negative comment, material negative comment. There are times everybody gets a sideways. Missy has bad days. People that
We've
come
had
in
a
at
few
bad
this
days.
year that, yeah, unfortunately, I
Yeah.
think those are more related to, I can only enforce what the ordinance says.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that's not always what everybody wants to hear.
Right. But I've never had a comment that Missy wouldn't work with anybody. Try to work through whatever the issue is, try to help people understand what the ordinances are that she is trying to enforce. So to that, I compliment you. That's not easy to do.
Missy, you, what did you put in for a wage increase?
I put in the standard 5% bucket. I mean, when you're Department of One, you got a bucket.
Board, anybody else? Any questions, comments for Missy?
An ordinance is only good if it doesn't affect you. When it starts affecting you, that's when you start hearing the complaints.
5%, I'm on board. I'm fine with that. So appreciate it, Missy.
Thank you.
Missy,
you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Missy.
You should want to close that one.
Yeah, sorry. I'll entertain a motion to close discussion.
So moved.
Second,
McCombs? Aye. Ramey?
Aye.
Johnner?
Item number 18. Chris Nestavy. Annual review, performance evaluation. Thank you, sir.
Well, hi, board. Here we are again.
Here you are again. Oh, I see how you are. So I will ask you that somewhat similar. If you were to take one thing, erase from your to-do list, what would it be?
Could we go back to pre-COVID? I mean, because that's really the only complaint I have with my job. It's not the job itself, it's the reality of what working in this industry now is. Nothing's timely. No one follows through with the very few things that we actually hire out. No one follows through with what their commitment is. So you withhold payments and you twist arms. I mean, you look at what conservation's gone through, what Tyler goes through with contractors. That is my biggest complaint, is we now live in a day and age where, you have the government changing codes at a rapid pace, not to the taxpayer's benefit,
Mhm.
not to the public's benefit in any capacity. You have so few contractors that actually follow through with what they say they're going to follow through with. And they're all overworked as well, with the few people that actually pick up a tool belt every day and go to work. So if we could change that, I mean, that my job would be way happier, but those are things we have no control over.
It's somewhat like they're on their own just timeline, I
Mhm.
mean, or they use because of COVID,
Sure.
Yeah. I get that.
But from a job perspective, Keisha, I wouldn't change anything. I enjoy coming to work every day. I look forward to taking on new things. New things keep me excited. And we continually take on new stuff. So I'm happy all around.
All right. Is there an area in which you would like to grow in?
Oh, absolutely. How many do you want?
Whatever you want to.
I think
preferably not,
Job related things, the biggest thing I think in my position and other department heads positions that deal with contractors is code regulations are changing at such a rapid pace. I need to take time this year to really brush up on new codes. We're changing things more towards the green initiative, and we're starting to see that in the actually the way the codes are written, the building codes, electrical codes, plumbing codes. That's not a good thing. That's not a good thing for the taxpayer. And in order to make sure we don't have to face undue litigation when it comes to our buildings, and the way we do projects, I absolutely need to spend some more time brushing up on some of those things and then passing that information on to the guys as well.
What do you mean by green initiatives?
How much time you want? No, I think
Federal
what
or
we're going
state?
to see the EPA, we have one state that has now followed through with it. Well, we have two states that have talked about it, one that's followed through. Inevitably, the EPA is wanting to push this zero carbon emission deal. That's fine considering we would be grandfathered in for almost everything that we have, gas related. The issue is going to be when we have to replace. I'm already seeing it. I've purchased 3 HVAC units in the last year. The availability, we go off of what's rated as a SEER rating. That's the efficiency, the kind of the green rating of an HVAC system. We're seeing from year to year, it used to be perfectly acceptable to buy like a SEER 12. Well, now we're looking at, it's got to be a SEER 18. I mean, if you want to follow code, and then we're going to see that go up higher and higher and higher. So that's a very simple thing. And I'm not saying let's get rid of gas, natural gas, propane, things like that. They are pushing that. I don't think they'll ever get it. But the reality of it is you're starting to put stipulations on the efficiency ratings of things, which means more bells and whistles, means less reliable, means tougher to get parts for,
Means higher cost.
means extremely higher cost. So I think that's the stuff that's going to immediately hit us. The average homeowner is not going to be hit by those things unless they do new construction. But from our standpoint, we are going to be hit by those things. So it's the code side of that I need to really be focusing my time on to make sure we're not in a legal situation.
Is there trainings? Is there, or like, I didn't know if there was the government side for trainings and when it comes to facilities.
There is private trainings that does a good job of reviewing those things. So pre-COVID, it was a fairly standard thing within this department that the guys went off the training every year. I usually let them pick a couple courses and then they would go off. Those are now starting to open back up. So myself and the two guys for sure will start brushing up on some of those things. Most of those courses are in Des Moines. There's a few I signed up for that are in Maui. So actually, I did not sign up. Press, I'm not going to Maui for any training
On a private jet.
on a private jet. of
Actually,
course.
John Kerry's going to land and pick you up.
Absolutely. John and I are close.
Yeah,
so
okay. So
But
make
no,
sure we
we'll-
got that down.
We'll start taking some more course trainings. I've got a few in September I'm looking at right now that are going to brush us up our department on codes and give us a kind of a glimpse into the new pipeline coming down.
Chris, I know with your department and do you feel like it's adequate with what when the challenges that you face and today, when you talk about pre-COVID timeliness, things like that, staff wise, your staff is doing an excellent job. From what I can see. And again, it goes back to what Mark says. We don't hear many complaints. So I appreciate that. And you're doing a great job when it comes to managing your staff. And the only thing that I would think of, and this was just something that I noticed yesterday as I was leaving the parking lot, and side note is your department is probably one of the only ones that doesn't have the decals of Marion County on it. Is that something that we could possibly look at doing? Because I think it would be, when it comes to.
It was intentional that way.
Well, I personally would like to see that you put the Marion County on it. I think it's good representation, but.
Certainly something we can do.
Okay.
I'll just make sure they're magnetic.
But I'm not for sure if that's done in-house or how that's done. So I don't know if Tyler does his or whatever, but.
I personally don't care whether you have decals or not. That's my opinion.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I just.
Well, setting the decal issue aside for a minute, when we think about, again, how the department has changed from what it was 10 years ago, Chris. And I can speak to this a little bit. I'm sure Jake could, or knowing what we had, and it's not I'm not about any one individual, but it's about the quality of the work and the way people have received the work. Working with public officials is a pain in the neck. And you have handled that, I think, in the most professional manner possible. Because they're on your side. 10 years ago, this would not be the case. 10 years ago, I would be getting complaints all the time from the electeds. Maintenance doesn't do this, facilities doesn't do that, they don't take care of this, they don't mow, we don't get that. Your staff, you, the level of professionalism in dealing with people with large egos, people like me, you do very well. You do it in an excellent way to serve them, but also make them understand what you can do and what you can't do. And so I really have to compliment you on that. That is not an easy road to navigate with those individuals. I think sometimes for the public's sake, you know, we review people like Tyler and Chris and Missy and Lisa. They're not electeds. And they have to work with a group of departments run by electeds. And that compounds their work. Doesn't make it easier, it actually makes it harder. So anyway, I have to compliment you on that. You've done extremely well.
Appreciate it.
And
Thank
I've seen that change. On the finance side, you know, I'm big on the numbers. What we're able to do with a small department is nothing short of amazing. The cost structure change of facilities has been dramatic. And it has certainly complemented the overall budget of Marion County. The monetary savings you and your department have contributed have been significant. I don't have a number in front of me, but if we were to quantify that now, it would be in the high six figures, undoubtedly, on the money you and your department have saved on projects over the last several years. So that in and of itself is worthy of a compliment to you and your staff. So
Yeah, I was gonna make that comment too, Mark, that we don't have to outsource a lot of things anymore. We do them in-house, which saves us a lot of money. I really appreciate that.
and the quality of the work. This is the last point I'll raise. When you and your staff do things, it works, it lasts, and it's of the highest quality we can muster here in our county. So anyway, my compliments to you, my compliments to your group and what you're doing. How are you fixed for staff?
I think we're in a great position. If I didn't have the staff who was willing to work hard and put in extra time, I mean, I can say that typically our days are not your typical 8-hour days. There are days absolutely that are 8-hour days, and they're plentiful. But there's days like yesterday where I sat around the courthouse until, you know, almost 7 o'clock last night trying to make sure our HVAC worked. So I think we're great on staff. I don't want to ever be in a position where I would rather have us be extra busy than try to find something to do for someone. So that means there are moments where I'm going to work the guys really, really hard, and I'm going to put in a lot of extra hours myself. And there's days where we're going to have normal 8-hour days and maybe even less than 8-hour days, you know, where Fridays can be early offs and things of that nature. So I think we're sitting really well on staffing.
Good.
Nope, and I know that I just stopped in to see Chris yesterday and I asked him, I said, hey, I have this project. Are you willing to look at it? And he said, yeah, so I do appreciate you, you know.
And we're doing it tomorrow, actually.
So, no, I appreciate that. So, you put in, for you and your staff,
Exact
5%.
what
Okay.
the board recommended, 5%.
Okay,
So
all right. Any other further discussion? Good.
Nope.
Well, thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
pleasure.
Thank you.
Entertain motion to close, for annual review for Chris.
So moved.
Second,
Ramey.
Aye.
Johnner. Aye. McCombs.
aye.
Number 19, at this portion, we will be closing the public meeting. So I entertain a motion to close the public meeting.
So moved.
Second,
May 9, reconvene from closed session.
Entertain a motion to open or reconvene into open session.
So moved.
second,
Ramey.
Aye.
Johnner.
Aye.
McCombs.
Aye.
And regarding closed session, HR performance evaluation, no action taken. On to item number 20, Board of Supervisor updates. Anybody have any updates?
I have a landfill meeting tomorrow. The landfill is back open to the public. So the scale has been complete. So they're open for business again.
Good, very good. Yeah, mental health reorganization that we talked about in our last meeting, reorganization, mental health consolidation. I want to make sure we're clear on this from what we are doing with Heart of Iowa. The cross-board voted to merge. That merge will be administrative. What does that mean? It's really your back office functions. So it's staff. So everything from whether it is how payments are processed, how staff is managed, benefits, etc. That's really what the merger will be right now, because we're not contiguous counties. In other words, we don't have a county that touches between the regions. There will still be two boards. So both boards will remain until such time as the next piece of legislation comes down that says you no longer have to have contiguous counties. Well, guess what's probably coming next year. So we're just planning for that. The second piece of that is we will be looking at the access center component of that. Rachel has set up a meeting for myself and the chair of the Heart of Iowa board to look at the access center and see what we might want to do with that as a result of this partnership. For target date for July 1 for what? Yes, yes.
Do you know if, because the payroll and everything will be going and claims through them, will there be we have to clear the fund balance because we have to have enough fund balance here to cover the front end and then cross pays. Do you think that will be emptied?
I think at the end of it will be emptied at the end of the day.
That's what I figured as well, but probably not till next fiscal.
I'm thinking next fiscal, you'll have
Yeah,
enough to cover remaining bills.
Okay.
But we can get that all clarified with Darcy too.
Yeah, that's what I kind of.
But I think that
The
there,
state just made us empty it by the end of June,
yes,
which then was problematic for outstanding warrants and things like that.
Yeah.
So I was just kind of curious.
we can
I
work that
didn't
out.
think it would quite the same this time.
Yeah, yep.
I have IWD this afternoon. And then also I'd just like to publicly say on the sinkhole, still nothing has changed. And hopefully going to have a meeting later this week and hopefully maybe we can resolve some issues, but no guarantees.
All right.
That's it. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second,
McCombs,
aye.
Ramey. Aye. John. Aye.